thank you very much, Jack, for that nice introduction. And I've been here for a couple hours already, hearing you folks talk and laugh, and I concluded that you're definitely warmed up and in the mood to laugh. And I promise you that by the time you leave, you'll be laughing out loud, LOL, at a number of different things. So let's get started. I just want to introduce myself a little bit. First of all, I see I'm in good company here, not only you folks, but in the company of Jerry Seinfeld and Rodney Dangerfield. And I have to tell you that I am not Jerry Seinfeld or Rodney Dangerfield, or certainly not Toady Fields, okay? Because I'm not a stand-up comedian. Doesn't mean I won't tell some jokes. I'm going to start off by telling a few jokes, but the real entertainment is the internet. And that's my whole point here, that Jewish humor on the internet is a lot more, a whole lot more, than Catskills comedy. Not to put down Catskills comedy. Somehow I have the impression that almost everybody here has spent some time, either at the Concord or Grossingers or Kutchers or Browns or the Raleigh or Homoac or, right? Do I have a show of hands? People, Catskills veterans. Okay, we're going to do some Catskills comedy, but mostly we're going to do humor that happens to Jewish people all over the world, sometimes without being aware of it. We are a very funny people, even though we don't realize it. We do funny things, we do silly things, whether we're secular, Reconstructionist, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Hasidic, Yeshivish, doesn't matter. We all do foolish things, happy things, and I'm going to share some of those things with you in the form of video clips that come off the internet, mainly from YouTube, but also from other sources that I've collected over the last 3.5 years, and then beyond, before there was an internet, just in terms of Jewish jokes and Jewish humor. Just by way of introduction, I am not a stand-up comedian. I am a retired IBM marketing manager, retired about 10 years ago, and that left me a lot of time to devote to collecting humor. About 6 years ago, my daughter Esther, who is known as the queen of social media in her circles, started a blog, 2 blogs, 3 blogs, and taught me all about what blogging was. It took her 3 years to get through to me, for me to understand it. But 3.5 years ago, I started a blog called Jewish Humor Central. And ever since then, every day, except for Shabbat and Jewish holidays, I post an item every morning. It's either a joke, or a little piece of music, or a little piece of funny thing that happened to somebody somewhere around the world. Some of them are just Yiddish nachas, not uproarious laughter, but give you a good, warm Jewish feeling. So that's going on constantly every day, and then when I'm finished, I'll show you how to subscribe. There's no subscription fee, there's no money, there's no bothering, no spam. So if you want to do that and get a laugh every morning, you can join the 3,600 people that are now looking at that every morning in 180 countries. Now, let's talk about Jewish humor and the kinds of Jewish humor that we have. Since I've been collecting this for 3.5 years, I noticed that the 1,200 anecdotes that I've picked up, almost every one of which has a video clip associated with it, naturally fall into 7 categories. And each of those categories became a book that I wrote, collecting all these pieces of humor. And you'll see samples today from all those 7 categories. I also do lectures on the individual categories, but this is what I call a tasting menu, so you'll get the whole spectrum of Jewish humor. The first one is old jokes and new comedians, because we all know about the old comedians. They're sitting with us in the centerpieces, and we have some new comedians too, but the jokes are all old, and I'll go into that too. There is no such thing as a new Jewish joke. There just isn't. The second category is, I call Israel is a funny country, because I travel to Israel frequently. One of my children lives there with his family, and there's a lot of funny stuff that goes on. People think Israel is a serious place because of the headlines in the New York Times. A lot of funny shtick that goes on, and you'll see some of that too. And then I have just general Jewish humor of many different categories. And then I have something that I call Jewish traces in unexpected places, which is where Jewish life pops up in Vietnam, in the Arctic Circle, and all kinds of places you would never expect it, including about 30 or 40 different versions of Hava Nagila, one more bizarre than the other. I'm sure you've seen some of them. And then I have a category called Yiddish as a funny language. Even for people who don't speak the language or understand a lot of it, there's a lot of funny stuff going on in the Yiddish, with the Yiddish language. And then there's a category of Jewish holiday hilarity, whether the holiday is a serious one like Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur or a funny one like Purim. All through the year, there's been an emergence of music videos especially, but also funny parodies and skits and satire that have to do with the holiday. So that's another category. And finally, there's a category of Yiddish nachas, which is just plain joy, like when Ali Reisman used Hava Nagila as her music for winning the skating Olympics, the skating championship. Those kind of things we talk about too. So that's just an example of the kinds of humor. But it all starts with jokes. So let me just start off with a few jokes, and then I'm doing the warm-up for the internet. That's the real meat of it. You're going to see about 20 videos today. But just a couple of jokes to get started. Okay, Sheldon and Marlene are celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary, and so they book a trip to Australia. Everything's fine, they pack, they get ready, they go to the airport, they get on the plane. About halfway to Australia, the pilot gets on the speaker system and says, "Folks, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you, but don't worry. I mean, it's not serious. The plane has lost some of its engines, and the communication system is failing, so we're going to have to land somewhere short of Australia. But don't worry, because we spotted an island below. We have a very talented, capable crew, and we will land on the island, and everybody will be safe. The bad part is, it's an uncharted island, so nobody will ever find us. We'll never see your children again. We'll just have to live where we live." So Marlene is distraught. Everybody's crying. They land safely. They get on the island. And Sheldon says to Marlene, "Marlene, before we left, remember I asked you to write a check to our synagogue? Did you write that check?" She says, "No, I was so in a hurry calling the children and packing, I didn't have time to do it." "What about the check I asked you to write to UJA Federation? Did you write that check?" "No, I forgot that too." And what about the check for the building fund for our children's yeshiva, grandchildren's yeshiva? Did you write that check?" And she starts crying, "No, Sheldon, you're going to hate me. I never did it." And then he gives her the biggest hug that he ever gave her in 40 years of marriage. And she says, "Sheldon, what got into you? We're doomed here. We'll never see our children again. Nobody will ever find us." And he says, "You didn't send a check to UJA? You didn't send a check to the kids' yeshiva? You didn't pay the dues for the shul? Don't worry, they'll find us."